Welcome back to Armchair Author Chats. We had a little skerfluffle in our last attempt, but that's okay. We recovered and we are back. I have the lovely, beautiful, talented Kay Parquet, the author of Unbound Dreams and Unbound Pages. Let's bring her in. Hi, Kay. How are you?
I am fine. How are you?
Very well. You look lovely today. I love those glasses.
Thank you. They're my favorite glasses that I've had in quite some time.
They're so cute. I love them. So let's
Thank
start
you.
with magic. We're gonna hop right in. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's okay.
Um, can you share the moment you first felt that spark to write your book?
I've been writing since I was a little kid. So like I started out with Star Trek fanfic and Star Wars
Oh,
fanfic and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm a hardcore sci-fi girl. Um, but I started with fanfic and I would sit there in the kitchen with my stepmom and I would read to her, and she was an English major. So it was a really cool, dynamic back and forth. And then I had a science teacher that really, really encouraged me to write, because my English teacher was like, hey, this kid did this science story about Star Trek, and we know you love Star Trek. Here we go. And
yeah.
so my science teacher and my English teacher were both very encouraging, and it just took off from there.
Wonderful, wonderful. So your book is a roller coaster of emotion and just, I love the mysterious figures in the mage and the engineer. Those. What got you to create these characters?
So my husband and I used to write together,
Oh.
and he doesn't think he's good enough, but he is. I'll just tell you a secret. He is.
Uh-oh.
We
Secrets
used
out,
to write
husband.
together. Uh-huh. We used to write together, and we would come up with all these ideas and stuff. And I have like a huge Gmail folder full of our stuff, a huge Gmail folder of my stuff. And so I get a lot of inspiration back and forth from all those emails. And that really helps.
Nice, nice. So your characters feel real. Do you secretly borrow traits from people you know?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, who doesn't though? It's that whole be careful, you might become a character in my book. It's like,
Uh-oh.
well, sorry, I used you anyway.
My
But
favorite
yes,
is,
absolutely.
yeah, do you love when someone goes, is that about me? Is that?
Yes, you were the one that got murdered. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I was very upset.
Yeah,
So can you
but
give us
yes,
a peek
absolutely.
behind the curtain and tell us a little bit about your writing routine?
Oh goodness. Well, I'm not a night owl, but I'm not a morning person. And I'm not a middle of the day person either. But I tend to write my best between midnight and noon.
Okay.
So, like, sometimes my characters will wake me up in the middle of the night, like 2 a.m., and I'm sure anybody that knows me knows I am up at that time a lot, um, because they want to get attention and they want to be written
Yeah.
down. And then first thing in the morning is when I'm the most energetic. So that's when I sit down and basically write.
Well, that's why you're up early with me.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's something to be said about that because if you go back to bed and you're sitting there going, "Oh, I'll remember in the morning," what are the odds that that's going to happen?
It will not happen with me.
I love that.
If it's not written down, it don't happen.
Yeah, I think that goes for a lot of life, for at least in my. We're so much alike, Kay. So, can you share any funny or unusual stories that happened while you were writing or promoting one of your books?
Oh goodness. Um, Funny moments. I don't know. There are so many. I guess I wrote one of my dogs into one of my books.
Oh, how cute.
And so I wrote one of my dogs into one of my books. And one of the funny things that I loved with her, when I was writing, she would come lay next to me. And it was almost like she knew I was writing that character because, like, every time I was writing, she'd come up to me like, Mom, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, don't do that to me because now I got to write it in here.
I know. Oh my gosh, that is funny. I like that. And unusual. Like, how does she know?
Yeah,
How did she know?
she was a very smart girl.
So, writing isn't always easy. How do you push through writer's block or tough days?
I don't push.
Okay.
Pushing leads to burnout. Burnout is not good. So I don't push. Excuse me. If I feel like I need to push, I know it's time to stop. If I feel like I'm having a tough day, it's time to take a self care day. I'm just listening to my body because I have chronic pain and a lot of other conditions. So I have to listen to my body or I'm not going to get it done.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, so I don't push
And you
at
write a
all.
lot about that in your blog posts and your Substack posts with burnout, and I read them. I read them often because I do it to myself. I will push through all the time, and your advice is so on point every time I read it. Would you like to speak a little bit about that?
Oh, goodness. Well, if you want somebody that really knows a lot about burnout, check out Becca Syme
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my thing with burnout is I was burned out for a long time. I had a business for 17 years
Mhm.
and I didn't take vacation for almost 15 years of that.
Wow.
So I burned myself out extremely bad in that business. So, from personal experience, I know how hard it is to get out of it and how easy it is to get into it.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
that's where my experience and my advice comes from.
And it's so on point. And if you guys haven't read any of her blog posts, check out her newsletter at kayparquet.com. She's amazing and has a lot to offer over there. So, publishing a
Thank
book
you.
is no small feat. What was your biggest aha moment in the publishing process?
Oh, goodness. If you have not been through Publish and Thrive with Sarah Cannon, you should absolutely go through there because that's where my aha moments came from.
Amen.
Oh, your first book, not a good idea. Well, guess what my first it's a novella. So I'm reworking and I'm turning my 9-book novella series into a trilogy instead.
Ooh.
Because, like she says, your first book is your lead magnet. That's how you're going to get people to buy. So if a novella is not the good way to go, then that was my aha. And I was like, well,
Yeah, yeah, that's great advice. Great advice. So, if your books were to be adapted into a movie, I love this question because I like to see the answers. I'm always surprised. Who would you dream cast in lead roles?
see, I have an answer for that because I don't watch TV.
Oh no! Well, that's good
I
actually. That's
don't
actually, oh
I
yay!
don't yeah, I don't really watch TV unless my husband says, "Hey, this is a really good show," because he has really good taste. Like the last show we watched, Shogun, absolutely recommend it.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you don't like gore, don't watch it.
I'm like
Yeah,
this with the gore.
but I don't really watch a lot of TV and movies unless he like suggests them because it's just not an interest to me. I'd rather be reading.
Yeah, I'd rather be reading.
So.
That there's your t-shirt. So we all love a good story or even a nonfiction. What's one book, not your own, that you would recommend everyone read?
Oh my god, I have so many. I can definitely suggest Guy Gavriel Kay as an author. Sharon K. Penman, definitely. Um, Looking at my huge bookcase over here. You know what? One of the recent ones that I read was The Expanse in its entirety, and that is a good series. If you haven't seen well, that got a TV adaptation, and I did watch that. But
Well, you
it's
had
on
to know.
Amazon Prime. so good.
You gotta watch the ones you've read. There's like this little gnawing in the back, right? You're like, okay, I just gotta see what they did.
Yeah, you gotta see what they did. What did they do? What did they
Or
do?
what didn't
What
they
did they leave
do?
out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, balance is key. How do you juggle writing with other responsibilities?
boundaries.
Ah,
Absolutely boundaries. I have hard boundaries, and most of my friends and most people that know me know this. I have absolute hard boundaries when it comes to evenings and weekends. Every once in a while, I'll make an exception for something like yesterday with Inkspire Indie, where I wanted to watch some of the stuff going on. And my husband understands, that's for workshops and me learning and doing stuff like that. So, but otherwise, I just have strict boundaries. I do not work before 9 a.m. Well, unless my characters wake me up at 2 a.m. But I do not work before 9 a.m. I stop at 4 p.m. And then the evening is mine and my husband's, and the weekend is mine and my husband's. So that's how I juggle everything because, I mean, boundaries are just so important. I can't
they
even,
are.
yeah.
One last question, and I will release you from my clutches. What
Okay.
is your favorite snack or drink while writing?
Well, I don't really drink much but water and coffee, to be honest with you.
Fair.
Um, well, I'm not going to say water is my favorite though, because it's not really. But snacks, I try not to snack when I'm writing because then it just becomes mindless eating
That's
because
true.
I'm just so deep into the writing that I'm just constantly shoveling whatever it is in my mouth. So I don't snack, but I do, if I do drink anything that is one of my favorite things, I guess it would be chai tea.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a very good.
Yeah.
So thank you, Kay, for being here. I appreciate you so much. Oh my gosh, and thank you for the patience with the text
Oh no,
messages. They were after us today, huh?
I know it wasn't just you, it was me too.
I know. Well, where would you like to leave our audience with the details on how they can buy your books and find out more about you?
Sure. I am on, well, I have my own website, I should say, and that's where you can find everything. It's kayparquet.com. And you can find everything there from my first book to my Ream stories, which I write both sci fi, fantasy, and urban fantasy there. Excuse me. So you can find me there. You can find everything that you want to, basically find on my website, kayparquet.com.
Wonderful. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Author Armchair Chats. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Kay, again. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Rita.